Hey-o. Ooh, I think I unplugged myself there for a second.
There you go.
Welcome
You're back.
On a Friday, opening ceremony day, afternoon. I don't know. It's weird because of the time difference. But hopefully the Olympics don't get canceled. But we'll see how far they make it. Thank you guys for joining us. Hit us up in the comments. Call in at the link down below. We do have a guest coming on here shortly to talk about probably the more interesting, singular news item of the day in the sports world. But Tyler, how are you doing this Friday? And what are you looking forward to going in this weekend?
That's actually a HIPAA violation, so I'm not going to answer that question. No, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Looking forward to the just kind of sitting back and watching the Olympics as much as I can this weekend. Definitely looking forward to that. So, all in all, doing pretty good. Ron, how you doing today?
Look, I'm not going to lie. I watched, in the background, I was still working, but I watched like 2 hours of rowing today.
Yes.
I mean, you're pretty much just watching this the whole time. Like, some are faster than others. That's pretty much it. But Olympics, I hope they make it because I do love me some Olympics. So hopefully, again, they make it all the way. I know it's a little tentative, but the big news of the day that kind of was sprung on us yesterday, I guess, but as with a lot of things in the college football world, sort of a lot more than meets the eye, I guess, I feel like these days. Like, so then it comes out like, well, they've been talking about this for like 6 months. But reportedly, Oklahoma and Texas are damn near, like almost imminent, like a week away from joining the SEC. So joining us on the program, we have a friend of the program and also our just resident Big 12, or what remains of it for now, insider on the Chew Dental Lab Celebrity Hotline. Braden Suprenant, you know him from the Coach Quintero program, noon to 3 here in San Diego, 97.3. Also, hear him on the pre- and post-game show for Padre Baseball. But again, like I said, in this particular case, he joins us as the Big 12 insider on
his most important job being our Big 12 insider, of course.
That's right.
Yeah, of course.
Especially now, horns down.
There you go.
Well, I would say you could get in trouble for that, but that's a
great. Now we're gonna get fined. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a 15-yard penalty for the opening ceremonies King Sports.
Terrible.
Move it back 15 seconons. Come on.
I would just take it. I'll just kind of do one of those.
Yeah, right.
I'll take it. Like, it got the team fired up. Horns down.
It's like in hockey when you get into a fight on purpose, right?
Exactly. It's good for morale.
Momentum shift thing.
Yeah, give you that bench boost.
Thank you, Braden, for joining us. I mean, you got to assume this is probably sort of the bedrock of the entire conference as far as the amount of money that these two teams bring in if they leave. So is there going to be a Big 12 after this, if this happens?
Well, I highly doubt it, to be honest with you. And I think it is happening. I mean, it sounds like they've been in the works for this for a very long time now. The rumor that Texas A&M leaked it to try to foil the plans of their hated rival, the Texas Longhorns. I don't think it's going to work out for Texas A&M in this particular sense. But, it sounds like it's probably going to happen. Now, when you do something like that in the Big 12, obviously, the Big 12 is nothing without Texas and Oklahoma. And if you look back to like 10 years ago when they decided to do the big realignment changes, right? I mean, everybody was flying all over the place. Big 12 lost Missouri and Nebraska and Colorado and Texas A&M. And, Texas and Oklahoma basically said, look, we can't have this happen again or we're leaving. And the Big 12's like, oh, if you stay, well, let's just basically let you run the conference. And that's kind of what the case has been. I mean, you can even look at the Big 12 media days. Oklahoma doesn't have their starting quarterback at Big 12 media days. It's like, well, that's our decision. Yeah. Is that something that flies in the SEC? Absolutely not. No. They're in the SEC. Arkansas can't not show up with their starting quarterback. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But in the Big 12, Oklahoma and Texas to call all the shots. So when you got two programs that call all the shots, make all the money, and you take them out of the conference, I mean, who do you got left that's going to be the big marquee team in the Big 12? I mean, who becomes the big team in the Big 12 that not only makes it a Power 5 conference, but also, makes it enticing for somebody else to join the conference, right? I mean, we'll get into that, I'm sure, in just a little bit. But, if you're a team on the outside, looking in and you're the Big 12 and you're like, oh, let's try to find somebody to fill you're never going to find anybody that's going to fill the role of Texas and Oklahoma. So unless you start to purge from another Power 5, which is not going to happen, you're going to bring in Cincinnati. Is that going to be your answer? I mean, I heard rumors about Louisiana Lafayette and was it Lafayette and Louisiana Tech? They might be
Bulldogs.
I mean, come on, that's not going to benefit.
Not going to move the needle.
Well,
I mean, even as much as on this program that we love to always say, for better or worse, Texas is always back, but they do make a lot of money. So and they're pretty relevant in most sports most of the time, whatever basketball, football, baseball, whatever it is. Track even even like non-revenue sports. So losing them out of their conference, I don't know. I feel like and Oklahoma, right behind them in that respect. It's pretty much taking the bedrock out of that conference, and I don't think you're going to make that up with like a Louisiana Tech. Tyler, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this too. I know as far as our show, the regulars here. Tyler is more of the college football specialist than myself, but
I mean, look, it's just something that I feel like, you and I were texting a little bit about it earlier, and you were talking about just kind of how sudden it happened. Like, my thought was like, I don't think this something that happened suddenly. It's just something they were able to somehow keep quiet, because something like this just doesn't happen over a week. I mean, this is like, months in the making here.
Well, the amount of money, this is not like, hey, we can't just do this in like 3 days. Like,
yeah, I mean, it is weird. It's something I'm kind of wondering. In Brady, you being a Big 12 guy, maybe you could maybe even put a little more insight into this, because I was thinking about it a little bit earlier today. Do you think something like this happens if, like, let's say, T. Boone Pickens is still around? I mean, notoriously incredibly wealthy Oklahoma State booster. He's kind of been the guy that's like, to whatever extent you can, keep Oklahoma and Texas in check with his, his power, his influence, whatever. Do you think this move happens if he's still around, or do you think maybe he'd be able to maybe put the kibosh, or maybe even benefit Oklahoma State with this to maybe bring them along?
Well, it sounds like from the reports and what's happening was, a couple of years, I think it was either earlier this year or last year, kind of within the recent history, the Big 12 put a committee together to try to get, ESPN to give them a contract extension before their contract was up in 2025. So in 2025, the TV contract's up with ESPN. Big 12 wanted to basically solidify stability because, again, they only have 10 teams, and they want to be able to have the same contract that they have currently with 10 teams instead of 12, and be able to hang with the Power 5 conference and keep the revenue that they want. So they came up with this committee. They went to Fox, they went to ESPN, and they pitched the not necessarily the idea, but look, we want to sign a contract extension. We want to make sure we're dialed in for the next, till through 2030. So in that failed. ESPN's like, we're not negotiating until the contract's up. Fox, same thing. They're negotiating until the contract's up. So when that happened and the stability was kind of not there, Texas and Oklahoma were like, all right, we're going to start thinking about going elsewhere. So they put it out there. I think they were trying to find a place that they could fit. Obviously, if you're Texas and Oklahoma, I think the biggest moneymaker for you would probably be the SEC. So that makes sense from their kind of perspective. So sounds like since that they've been kind of working on it, and they find an opportunity to go to the SEC. The thing that's interesting to me when it comes to Texas and Oklahoma, when you think of Texas, you think about money. And they have the most money probably of any college in the United States. I mean, if they want money, they can go to a list of billionaires and go, we want X.
Right.
And give it that. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So from a money standpoint, like if you're Texas, it's like you're made of money. How much more money do you possibly need? So if you take that part out of the equation, if you're Texas, why does it make any sense for you to join the SEC? Like, let's take the recruiting side of it, right? If I'm Texas and I want to be able to compete with recruiting, even kind of level the playing field with Texas A&M in my own state, right? Because it's like, look, I'm offering a kid, he's a 5-star athlete. A&M can offer the SEC. I can offer the Big 12. It's not nearly as sexy as the SEC. But think about the last 10 years. Texas has a top 5 recruiting class each and every year. So it's not like they're not getting recruits. They're still
always going to get them.
They just can't develop them. Mm-hmm. So that eliminates – so you can eliminate money and you can eliminate recruiting. So now what's the big move for Texas? Why are they going to the SEC? Let's think about from a 12-team playoff perspective. You're in a 12-team playoff, and they already announced that the 6 conference champions are going to go in. Wouldn't it be more beneficial for you to be in the Big 12 where you have an opportunity to be in the Big 12 championship game each and every year, aside from being in the SEC where you got to finish in the top 5, which that is not necessarily a guarantee, even if you're Texas and Oklahoma. And I think Oklahoma has a better chance of doing that as of right now than Texas does. But why would you do that to yourself? So I really don't get it too much for Texas, aside from the prestige of being in the SEC. And I think kind of the arrogance of, we think we can go in this conference and kind of dominate.
Wait. Texas and arrogance? No, come on now.
I think they might have an opportunity to be able to compete a little bit.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I do see that Texas is back. I'm sorry. I just want to update Texas.
Okay.
They're back.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Good.
I'm getting that in my ear right now. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I mean, so let's break it down in a logic perspective when it comes to Texas and Oklahoma, 16 teams, SEC. So they threw out the pod idea, right? If you don't know about the pods, they're basically do 4 divisions of 4, and it would break it up, and you could break it out every way you want. They had basically the East Coast SEC teams with Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky, and there's another one out there, the Georgia. Then they had the 2 Alabama teams and the 2 Tennessee teams in the same pod. Then they had LSU, Arkansas, and the 2 Mississippi schools. And then they had Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, and Missouri or something like that. Now, Texas has a good chance in that kind of bid. And then if you break it up, let's say you break it up 8-8, and you go the West and the East. Well, there's 2 teams in the West that need to move east. Who are the furthest teams east? That would be Alabama and Auburn. If you're Georgia, are you that thrilled that Texas and Oklahoma is now in the league where you have to deal with Alabama on a daily basis? I mean, that takes away a path to the conference championship game for Georgia. So I think it's going to get approved by the SEC. Obviously, Missouri and A&M are super out on this situation because those are the 2 schools that they have to compete with the most when it comes to recruiting, and their whole leverage over them is now gone in that sort of aspect. And then A&M doesn't want to be in any conference with Texas because they become the little brother yet again, and that's not something they want to do.
That's why they left. That's why they
left.
They
left in the first place. They were trying to Texas calling all the shots.
Yeah.
So those are 2. I mean, if you get one more no, it's not going to happen. But I think they're going to get a bunch of yeses. But I think it's very interesting, the move and why the move now. Obviously, the TV money has a lot to play in it. But, where does the Big 12 go from here? They have a couple options. But aside from that, I can't imagine them hanging around.
And, one of the things I was thinking about – oh, sorry, Tyler. Go ahead.
No, Ron, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
The only thing is, given this, current pattern of, conference realignment and stuff like that, teams leaving, joining other ones, whatever, and now with what looks like it's going to be an expanded playoff with the, licensing right things for players, I feel like maybe Texas and Oklahoma are just accepting the fact that there's probably just going to be, let's just say maybe 25 to 30 just nationally relevant, whatever conference you're in, schools, and they're just going to be in the playoff or around the playoff every year. So now it's just let's just take the SEC TV deal. Let's just go there, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that kind of seems like the way it's going. It's almost going to be like an NFL of college football, sort of. But
I would imagine most of the alignment here is it's going to be a ripple effect. And I think the wise choice for the current 8 teams that are left behind is try to find a musical chair, and not be the last one standing. Because if you look at it right now, there's 8 teams left, right? there's 7 spots open in Power 5 conferences. If you just assume everybody's going to be a 16-team conference. There's 4 in the Pac-12. You have 2 in the Big Ten, and you have 1 in the ACC. And the only reason why there's only 1 in the ACC is because they still have this pipe dream that they think they're going to get Notre Dame, and they really want Notre Dame. So they're not going to foil their own chances of that by adding 2 Big 12 teams to their conference. And the only one that's out there that makes any sense anyway is West Virginia. You're not going to make Clemson fly out to Kansas to go play a Saturday night game against the Jayhawks or the Wildcats. So you got 8 teams battling for 7 spots. They had a meeting yesterday, and the meeting yesterday was, they invited Oklahoma and Texas, who blew them off, which I think that basically tells you exactly what they think about the Big 12 in general. It's, you know what, we're not going to show up. We're out. Figure it amongst yourselves. So in that meeting, it was discussed of different options of what we can do. And, the whole premise that they gave the press was we're all in this together and we're going to figure it out. But as much as that being said, it sounds like every team is, every school representative was sitting there going, yeah, of course we're in. Meanwhile, they got their fingers crossed behind their back as they try to make a deal, to try to get out of the situation. That leaked out today. Kansas and Iowa State rumored to have a meeting with the Big Ten either today or very soon. Before last night, it sounded late last night, there was a report that Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU have reached out to the Pac-12, which I've confirmed. I think they have done that as well. So they're trying to find their own way. One of the options that they threw out during the Big 12 meeting and trying to save the Big 12 would be to do a merger with the Pac-12 and do a 20-team conference. I think that's way too many teams. I don't really see that working. There's too many teams. I don't know what's West Virginia going to do. I can't imagine West Virginia being, more into being in a super conference with teams like Oregon State, Washington State, instead of being in the ACC. So I don't see them really going along with that. So we'll see what happens, but I think a big winner could be potentially the Pac-12. I think they really need to jump on it, and I really think the Texas schools, kind of need to form a pact together and be like, look, we're going to make a plea to the Pac-12, and that's what we're going to do. And whatever penalties we got to pay to get out of the Big 12, so be it. But you don't want to be that one team left standing. And you notice I've mentioned every team, but who? Kansas State. I mean, where's Kansas State going to go? They might be the odd team out because they're not far enough west to go to the Pac-12. And I know geography doesn't really matter when it comes to realignment for these teams. It's all about money. But what does Kansas State bring to the table on any type of benefit for a conference? They don't win championships. They kind of have a brand, but not really. They're not a high academic school. They're not one of those research institutes. They're not an AAU. You keep going down the list. I mean, there's no they don't fit the ACC. The Big Ten doesn't need them in any type of sports. Not when you can get Kansas basketball, and Iowa State is the football program that they are right now. Plus, they get the in-state rival of Iowa. There's no real option for Kansas State. So it's going to be really interesting to see what plays out. But I honestly think in the next handful of weeks, these ADs are going to start trying to make some phone calls and. I got a lot of ideas that the Pac-12 might be able to do, but it's going to get really interesting.
There was some ideas I saw kicking around, and I don't think it's really feasible. But if the Big 12 wanted to make just like a desperate play to stay intact, which again, as we've said, without Texas and Oklahoma, probably not going to happen. If it does happen, you're not getting nearly the amount of money you had coming in. But maybe make a move to try and get Houston, SMU, Boise State, just kind of, obviously you got 2 big Texas markets there with those. Boise State kind of like the big biggest program of the lesser 5 conferences. Do you think there's any shot at that, or is that just kind of like, pipe dream of Big 12 fans trying to keep something together?
I know the Texas state government would want to do that. I mean, the representatives that went to Houston and SMU that are on the legislature there in the Lone Star State are probably in on that. They've been trying to do that for a long time. But, let me ask you this. Is San Diego State getting in the Pac-10? Pac-12? No, they're not. And it's the same reason, right?
New stadium coming.
Yeah, but if you're USC and UCLA, you letting in San Diego State? No, absolutely.
Probably not.
It's the same. The same thing is true for Houston and SMU because it doesn't bring any value to you aside from just adding teams. I think a lot of it has to do. A TV market, I think, is kind of a thing of the past. I think that was more the relocation and the realignment for 2010. I think now it's probably more streaming because that's where everybody's going to. A lot more people are cutting cords. So you don't necessarily need the market. You just need the streaming base. So, the leverage that TCU would have of having a major market, being in a major market, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think does not really play into a factor too much. The same thing could be said about Houston and SMU joining the Big 12. You already have the Houston and Dallas market as Big 12 conference. You're not adding a TV market. All you're doing is making it more difficult for your teams in conference to recruit. There's no real benefit to adding SMU and Houston. I don't really think they're not going to make any decisions on other sports. Obviously, it's mostly football. But you add SMU, they don't have a baseball team. I mean, that's another add to the thing. So you're only really adding. You don't have a full baseball conference yet either. I mean, we even talked about all the other sports and the travel issues and all the other things that's going to happen. With some repercussions on that. But I really think if the Big 12 is going to do everything that they can to keep the thing intact, but every individual school, it's beneficial for them to just go elsewhere because, like I was telling one of my friends because we had the whole conversation of San Diego State trying to get into a big conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never going to be the Pac-12. The best chance was the Big 12. If you're San Diego State now, because I've seen a handful of people go, look, this is our opportunity to go into a Power 5 conference. If you're San Diego State, why would you go into a Big 12 conference without Texas or Oklahoma? Why would you? I mean, you don't get the full pull. I mean, you're playing TCU, who you were already in a conference with. You're going against teams like Kansas State and Texas State. It's all the not as sexy teams of the Big 12 that the travel doesn't make any sense. So I just don't see it. There's no real pull for any like if you're a team in the American Conference, is the Big 12 really a big step up than just being in your American Conference right now? I really don't see it. So I think the move for every individual school is, go find your own place to play. And it's going to sound like, the teams in Texas will go west, the teams up north will go north, West Virginia will go to the ACC, and, you just can't be the last team standing.
I'm not going to say this is like the very beginning, but it seems like sort of towards like, all right, there are going to be conferences still, but like just the disillusion of that, like where it's just going to be the big teams, especially with the playoff, like that are always in contention, can kind of do whatever they want. And it doesn't matter what conference they're in. Like, I mean, Notre Dame, they're still just like out there, whatever, but still, like, I'm not totally against it, but yeah, I don't see how the Big 12 can survive, like, with,
Can't survive with 8 teams. There's no way. They can't survive with adding any of the teams from the Mountain West. They can't survive with adding teams from the American. It's not the same. It's not the same product. And again, when you're talking about survival, you're talking about TV contracts. If ESPN said no to you for extending the contract past 2025 and you had Oklahoma and Texas in your conference, what do you think they're going to say when you have teams like SMU and Houston and UCF and USF and you start going out Cincinnati? ESPN's not giving you the same contract you had before. There's no sex appeal to it. It's not a big time conference anymore. I think the best chance the Big 12 has at potentially staying around is trying to poach the Pac-12 and be like, you know what, we're going to invite Arizona and Arizona State, and we'll ask Colorado and Utah if they want to join, and that's going to be their last ditch effort. If you want my honest opinion on that, so I think the best move. I think the best move is for the teams in Texas and Oklahoma to go try to find the Pac-12 and Iowa State and Kansas or Kansas State, whoever can outduel each other for the Big Ten, go up there, and then West go to the ACC. But think about your West Coast guys, right? And think about it from a Pac-12 perspective. You could do two ways. You can have two divisions of 8. You have the basically the South. Or really the Mountain Conference, if you will. You have the 4 schools from the former Big 12, and then you have Colorado, Utah, and the 2 Arizona schools. And then you can have your Pacific Division, where you have the 4 schools from California and Stanford, Cal, USC, UCLA. And then you have the 2 teams in Washington and 2 in Oregon. That's one way to do it. You could take the SEC model of doing the pods. I think the pods would work out great if you're any of those teams, because think about the pod from the pod perspective. You have one pod that's basically the Big 12, right? You have TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. You put the two Arizona schools, Arizona and Arizona State, with Colorado and Utah in the pod. You do the 4 California schools together, and Stanford, Cal, USC, and UCLA, and then you put the Pacific Northwest together.
For the Tyler's having some giant dog issues going.
Yeah, the dog's terrorizing his house, but that's a good way. And to be honest, like, I know the big knock on the expansion, the big knock on the expansion for the Big 12 schools, especially with the Pac-12, is Research Institute / AAU. I mean, that's a big thing that the Pac cares about. They care about the academics in that conference. So you got a situation where TCU is not a research school. Baylor's not a research school. As far as I know, Oklahoma State's not a research school, and I don't think Texas Tech is either. And every school in the Pac-12 right now is a research school or an AAU. So that would have to be something that would be waived. But if you're the Pac-12, I don't know how you let those 4 teams not join your conference and then get a 12 team.
I think also, especially like given the Power 5 or whatever, but if I was the Pac-12, I'd be like, all right, let's poach the best that's left over there, bring them in, because they're always, I mean, even compared to what was or is currently the Big 12, like on the outside looking in, sort of like it kind of cannibalizes itself. It can't really get a team that's like, all right, well, I guess you get 1 at least, or maybe 2 now in the playoff, but add them in and see what you can make out of it. I think I agree with you on that, but I don't know. It's going to be very confusing as far as like the conference structure going forward. I feel like the more I like the bigger playoff, and the playoff is sort of like already on its own, separate from the NCAA anyway. So it's just going to get bigger. Like that thing is going to make a ton of money. All the big schools will be around or in it, involved with it.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of the 4 super conferences.
Yeah, like I think
in 2010, right? That was the big thing. It was like eventually this is going to get to 4 super conferences. One of the conferences is going to dissolve, which is the Big 12. I think Mike Leach said it. Mike Leach said it 10 years ago. He said the Big 12 will not be around much longer. And, they lasted 10 years, 11 years after that big move.
I listened to Mike Leach. That's my guy.
They were obviously the odd man out, right? They were the team that had the least amount of teams out of the Power 5. And if you got 4 16-team, leagues, I mean, it's a structured scale where it's easy to determine the playoff. If you decide to go with 12 teams, I mean, you could theoretically take the top 3 teams in each conference and go. Makes it a lot easier for an 8-team playoff. It makes it a lot easier for, conference championship games, which they love. The NCAA and whoever is going to monitor this new system, they love the conference championship game and the extra money. It just makes it a lot easier. So I think that's what eventually it will go to. Whether that, gets solved in the next month or so remains to be seen. But when that happened, when that kind of proposal happened and the idea of the super conferences, my initial reaction was, as a TCU alum and then as a San Diego State fan growing up, you can't be on the outside looking in. You have to find a way to get into that system because it's going to be their own monster. And, the teams that aren't in are going to get left behind. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So you're one of those Big 12 schools right now. Get yourself in a power conference because it's only going to help you out in the future. And I think that's where we're going towards.
I did also want to circle back to, just a great comment that I saw from Mike, because shout out to Maryland, the also ran of the currently the Big Ten. But great troll job today.
Outstanding.
Basically saying Texas is afraid. Boom, we got to go to the SEC because they're afraid. They can't even beat us. And get out of here. On their official account. Got to love to see that.
I love that today. I mean, everybody's like panicking throughout college football. And Maryland, because they're not a big college football player anymore, just drops in there. Hey, they can't beat us. Good thing. That's why
it's like the Marlins, or the Rays. Like their social media is great because it's just like, hey, we can do whatever we want. Like, I mean, Braden, you and I have worked with the Padre people, and they're like, afraid to do anything, kind of, and we're just like, yeah, all right, it could be like a lot better than this, though. But like when you see interesting like official accounts, we're just like, all right, dude, you can like no one's gonna get fired for this, but you can still make it entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see where this aligns. Obviously, as a West Coast guy, I'd love to see TCU in the Pac-12. Makes it a lot easier for me to go to games when they're playing in Southern California, obviously, and my connections to Tucson, and I just think it would be a lot better fit. I know there was kind of a stigma that was floating around, or kind of a rumor. I know Adam Paul put in the comments here when it came to the Pac-12 not wanting religion schools in their conference. I've heard that before. I've gotten that confirmed from from people in the Pac. Well, it's kind of a myth. There's not a lot of schools that like BYU in general. So so this is the comment I was kind of referring to. That was kind of the stigma and like the knock on why TCU wouldn't be ever allowed in the Pac-12. From my understanding from a couple different athletic departments, nobody really likes dealing with BYU. They're kind of a pain in the ass, and it has nothing to do with their religion. It's just the different rules that they play by and the way they do things. It's just they're not very team friendly when it comes to being in a conference with them. So they had the Mountain West schools do not like BYU. They do not like working with BYU. Anybody that used to be in a conference with BYU does not like it. In fact, when we were talking about college football realignment back, a handful of 5-6 years ago when I was at TCU, we had a discussion about, how does the Big 12 need to expand the 12 to be a player? And if so, who do they add? And the one all the time was BYU, right? Because it's like, it's like a Notre Dame to an extent. It doesn't have the same tradition as Notre Dame, but it has a big following, independent, own network. So it's like it checks a lot of boxes. It's in Utah. It's not too far from Big 12 country. But what it all came down to again was TCU said no. That was one of the schools that was going to say no. Iowa State didn't like their stance on something politically. I forgot what it was, but they said no. And there was like 2 other schools that were like, we're not interested in playing BYU. And it had to do not only with football, but the Big 12 wanted to add schools for all sports, not just football. You got BYU in your own conference. You can't play on Sundays, which is a big thing for a lot of athletic departments. So, BYU is a team that you don't mind playing out of conference, but it's not a team you want to play and deal with in conference. And based on the people I know that were at TCU during the Mountain West days, hated going to BYU, hated dealing with the shenanigans at BYU and kind of the weird stuff that happened in Provo.
BYU, anybody, anytime, anywhere, unless you're Washington, then we're not going to play you.
That's right. We'll play Coastal Carolina, but that's about it.
That's right.
I mean, BYU, they do have it's a pretty, proud, like just athletic tradition there. A lot of good programs. They're really passionate about sports, but I could see kind of dealing with them as a member of your conference being annoying, having to like manipulate, work along their guidelines and stuff on certain things.
There's schools that have stigmas for being able to work with and schools that don't. I've heard from a handful of people that they don't like working with San Diego State too much when it comes to like, postseason bids. And the knock on San Diego State for postseason bids is basically they don't travel. I mean, San Diego State doesn't travel. So, like, if you're a bowl game, why would you ever want San Diego State? Because the only games that San Diego State can qualify for, New Mexico Bowl, unless they're winning the Mountain West, going to Las Vegas Bowl, they're going to Boise, Idaho, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tucson, Arizona, the Hawaii Bowl. I don't know about you, but Ron, you got it. Tyler, you've been down to San Diego. If I'm in San Diego in the middle of December, or in January, do I want to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Oh, yes. Send me to Boise at the end of December.
Right,
That's beautiful.
I want to go play in the Idaho Potato Bowl if I'm a San Diego State fan. And am I in love? Am I buying tickets to that to go watch them play Buffalo? No, I'm not. I'm not going to go freeze my ass off in Boise, Idaho, when I'm sitting here on the beach watching the Holiday Bowl on TV. I mean, it's just not. It's not something that's going to happen. So that San Diego State gets a knock for that kind of too. It's just that's not. There's nothing they can do about it. But I mean, that's a big reason why teams don't like San Diego State in their conference. That being said, they do like the fact that teams would love to be able to travel to San Diego in November for an away game in conference. They'd love that idea, but. The travel kind of hurts them, and they're still kind of growing when it comes to sports.
I also want to bring up Justin. We flashed this earlier, but yes, a Mike Leach conference would be incredible. Commissioner Mike Leach,
playoff, man.
That'd be great.
Just see what happens there, because we've all seen the press conferences. This guy, I wouldn't say he's a straight shooter, but he's got ideas. He's got big ideas.
The commissioner just walked in with a battle axe. What is going on here?
Media day at the Mike Leach conference would be dope.
One of my friends when he was at Washington State took Mike Leach's war class.
He took that class.
He had a war strategy class. He said it was the coolest thing. Mike Leach was wild guy.
Looked into trying to take that online, but there was no way to do it.
Oh, the waiting list apparently was he worked for the baseball team, so he had one of those early enrollment deals. So he was
right.
So, I'd love to have a Mike Leach class. It'd be insane. Mike Leach teaches how to do the playoff class.
Oh, God. Sign me up. That's a class I'm not missing.
I'm there to my veins.
Oh, man.
Well, all I know is, again, I'll get you out of here on this, Braden, but Texas is back.
No, they're not.
They're always back. Win or lose, they're back.
So, we'll see what happens. This is just sort of like I said, it feels like the tilting point of the four mega conferences all forming. But if the Big 12 can stay alive somehow, I would like to see that. But
A&M's going to try. A&M's trying really hard. They're
trying their ass off.
Big 12 intact. Adam Paul posted on that too. I saw it right before I joined you guys that the Texas A&M Board of Regents is meeting Monday to discuss a possible action on a contractual and governance issue relating to A&M and the SEC. So I don't know how that's going to work. I also don't know how much pull A&M has. I don't know about you. I would imagine Alabama probably has a lot more pull than Texas A&M, and I could probably list 5 other schools that have a lot more pull than A&M. So unless Texas A&M wants to take their ball and go home to the Big 12, I really don't see a good solution for them. Maybe they can call up Arkansas and be like, you know what? This isn't working for either of us. Let's go back to the Big 12.
What a move that would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
11 straight conference championships for Texas A&M. They go back to the Big 12.
At least they think so until they drop a game. You know what? Having to play I've told this story 1,000 times. Having to play in Lubbock is a very hard thing to do. Watch out for the tortillas.
That's true.
Well, just not enjoyable. Anyway,
it's not enjoyable, and weird stuff happens in Lubbock, and I can't wait for USC to have to enjoy that. It's going to be fantastic.
There you go.
We can only hope. That that is the silver lining of this.
If you think Oregon can't play in the desert in Arizona, what makes you think they can handle Texas Tech and the Raider Rash and the tortillas? They're in a bad world of hurt. The season going down to Lubbock.
Not happening.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on with us, Braden. Again, for now, the Big 12 Insider. But always welcome on the program. And, we'll just see what the fallout is from here. But, we'll just see where it goes, I guess.
If TCU goes to the Pac-12, we'll be your Pac-12 Insider. It'll be outstanding.
There we go. We go. Just a nice lateral move. Perfect.
That's right. Perfect. Yeah. You got an insider in some conference. That's right. West Coast guy. I'll hang out with SC. I'll go talk to my boy Dennis Lynn.
Every situation is
there you go.
So everything's in flux all the time. But thank you, Braden, for hopping on with us again on the Chew Dental Lab. So we outlined Chew Dental Lab, 2123 University Avenue. Well, it's kind of in the alley, so maybe like a half one of those weird addresses. But don't go there. That's their slogan is "Don't go there. Stay away from them."
Please don't come.
Thank you, Braden.
Yeah.
We will see, how that develops. And just, I guess, CEO Nick was here earlier, but we do have a big Loyal game tomorrow night. The Phoenix, it will be rising.
You'll be rising.
Has not lost in 9 games. So Landon has righted the ship, and we look forward to seeing what's going on there. But I will not hesitate. Manager of the month, Landon Donovan. I will not hesitate to bet against them.
Good.
Whether it benefits me or the team. I will make the smartest decision that I can.
It's win-win for you.
Yeah, it's always win-win. Just happy to be here.
By the way, I do got to apologize for having to drop out a few times to handle these dogs earlier.
Hey, I'm just happy the chickens weren't going off because it was pretty bad on Monday.
Two of the dogs started fighting, and then when I got them calmed down, the other one went outside and tried to pull a trash can in through the dog door. So, yeah.
A couple more odds and ends here. We'll talk about the Gold Cup. We are the Gold Cup show of record, of course.
Of course.
The, network and pretty much anywhere on whatever platform you choose to use. But the Cleveland Indians will now be the Cleveland Guardians. I'm not. I get it. They're keeping all the same like color scheme, and the name kind of fits in the same scroll or whatever. Like as far as the format for the uniform, the Guardians as a name doesn't seem that great.
Not good.
It seems like you're like, hey, we're just here to like defend our stadium, but it's not really like a awe-inspiring sports name. No. I guess like it just seems like
they're taking a name from an XFL team. Let's just put it at that. But I do have a question of what's going to happen when the Guardians and the Padres play. Is that going to be for custody of the Twins?
Yes, I don't know. That will be all settled in the courts, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah. But of course, when that came out, I did see that James Gunn had a comment about that. James Gunn, of course, the writer and director of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, saying if their logo was in a raccoon with a machine gun, I'm going to be bummed. And then a nice response from the Rocket City Trash Pandas, jumping in on that as well, the AA affiliate for the Angels. Who,
by the way, a real team, yes.
Yeah, I actually voted for that team name. I think when they put out a vote where you could pick one of 3 selections for like what they called their city, and then one of 3 selections for the mascot. And Rocket City Trash Pandas was my vote. So glad to see I picked a winner there.
Yeah, I feel like it would not be the Guardians if, in a similar scenario, if the name was put up to an internet vote.
No.
Something way more outrageous would be the name. So, hey, sometimes maybe just leave it up to the internet.
Cleveland, I would have rather they pick Cleveland Baseball Club. Like, honestly, I think that is better than Guardians.
That's really not terrible. I know the Baron was, poking fun at baseball team, but you could still do, sort of a spinoff of the soccer thing, like Cleveland Baseball Club. It's a thing. I could see it.
BC, call it BC Cleveland.
Yeah, BC Cleveland.
Real Cleveland.
Cleveland Dynamo. Dynamo Cleveland.
Oh, that would be great. Cleveland United.
Yeah, Sporting Cleveland. But shout out to MLS shamelessly just stealing all these names that make sense in Europe but don't make sense here. So good for you. Moving on to the Gold Cup, we do have some quarterfinals on deck. USA Jamaica again, as we've talked about. Jamaica, the pound for pound best soccer nation in the country. Not going to be an easy, well, certainly not a layup anyway. I would expect USA to win, but kind of that's always a fool's errand, expecting the USA men's team to do anything, like qualify for the Olympics or, just a litany of other things. But especially if it's not, the Nations League. I mean, we don't show up for that. Like, that's the only thing we got. Nations League, yes, we put our best on the field.
Yeah, but, you come and try and take that trophy from us.
Wrest it from our cold, dead hands. Please, any of you bums. Qatar, you're not invited to this one. But, the Gold Cup, especially this year with the Olympics going on, I know we were talking about before the show, Honduras is actually in the Olympics as well. So, pretty spread thin for CONCACAF teams. Probably going to be, again, just one of those tournaments, semifinals and finals will be the ones really to look at. But I don't want the USA to lose in any game. So let's go. Let's go USA. Let's win that Gold Cup and Nations League championship in the same year.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at the bracket, I know unfortunately I didn't clip a shot of the bracket, but if the U.S. can get past Jamaica, they've got the winner of the Qatar El Salvador matchup. So I think if they can get through this first round, it sets up nicely for them to disappoint on the way to the finals.
As is tradition.
But so you got to imagine, man, that Mexico Canada matchup in the second round is looking pretty tasty. Like I don't imagine Mexico's lose. Although, look, Mexico sent some really good players out to the Olympics. They've actually looked really impressive in their first game. So that may not be an easy win for Mexico. So it is kind of interesting. But to your point, I think you're right. Where it's kind of like, look, some of these squads are at the Olympics, so maybe they're not sending their best out to the Gold Cup. But I think it should still be a fun competition overall, and hopefully that means the U.S. can win it.
Hey, and I will say this. I mean, as we're talking about the Olympics, Mexico looked great.
They look real good.
Beat the crap out of France. I mean, France did score 2 goals, but Mexico never looked really threatened. So they won 4-2. And again, as you can see on the screen,
please
entertainment purposes only. But I did get on Mexico.
Yeah.
Plus 1150 to win the whole thing outright. I'm liking that. And what was the other one I threw on? Brazil was already, way too, I bet small. So there was just, no skin of the game. They were, plus 170. So I was like, screw it. But I'm trying to think of the other team that I bet on. But Mexico.
United States.
Yeah. Yes. I got them at plus 60,000. The guy said, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes." These colors don't run.
You actually had to type that in. It actually wasn't even offered. It was you had to click other and then type a name in.
I had to manually input that, but somehow they took the bet. So Arkansas Slim, we worked it out somehow.
There we go. But yeah, again, I think it should be it should be fun. Again, hopefully the U.S. can take advantage of the fact that everybody else is probably sending their best players elsewhere for this competition. The U.S. might actually win it. How about that? How about getting a CONCACAF double? How about that?
Oh, the double. Can we do the double? Woo! You know what? I'll still look back to fondness if we do that. And I will lord that over Mexico 100%. Fans forever.
100%.
One last thing that I had, anyway, that Tyler pointed out to me. The 3M Open is going on in Minnesota this week. It's kind of one of those week after one of the majors, so not everyone's in there. Although, as I pointed out to the Baron, crap on Louis all you want. He's out there in Minnesota.
He's there.
Humping around. I mean, shooting his -5. He's not going to win the whole thing, but he's out there. He's doing it in Minnesota.
He'll get a nice paycheck for it.
He's not starving anyway. But one of the great things. And I don't know. I think we did at one point maybe play the video, but the Chris Vernon show are famous for their Masters updates during the program, and it's usually set to a Rick Ross kind of a trap beat with a lot of updates of just a lot of yelling, a lot of people in mascot costumes. But one of the hallmarks of that was Tony Finau, where he be now.
Where he be now.
And that actually did make it to the 3M Open in Minnesota, where somebody shouted it out after Tony Finau hit this shot. He's got to make bogey here for the weekend. 290 yards, 267 for all. He's got to make bogey here for the weekend. Now, where he be now? 1 under. It's 1 under. Oh, well, the man points out he was saying Luerns. All right, he wasn't.
Yes, of course.
Booing Luerns.
But yeah, I did see that on somebody had tweeted at Chris Vernon saying "Hey, I just heard these guys shout this out on the 3M today," and then 5 minutes later, somebody sent him the video. So shout out to that crowd.
We've been missing
that's
Charlie Hoffman. Right, where the hell is Charlie Hoffman?
Yeah, shout out that crowd.
Somebody call your mama. Justin claims it was him. So
there we go. Okay.
I'm not any kind of position to disprove that. So
I can't say he wasn't there. I can't say he wasn't there.
I don't know for a fact that he wasn't. So we're going to go with that.
Exactly.
Webb Simpson, fall one. We be missing Charlie Hoffman. On that note, I mean, that's pretty much all I got. Loyal, again, please do not hospitalize me. Landon, you know what you have to do. Take care of business tomorrow night. Don't mess up the streak, but whatever I can do, in the betting world to facilitate either you winning or me getting money, I will do that. Please believe that.
You shouldn't have said that on air. That's just going to bring in some scandal against the Loyal. They're going to have to disband now.
Betting scandal rocks the San Diego Loyal.
Yep.
Season ticket holder. I'm privileged to some inside information, obviously.
That's right, of course. Look, you've been in the offices. They've given you beer. Come on.
I've been there. I've seen the whiteboard. I know all the plans. So maybe I shouldn't have said that.
That's right.
I might get in trouble for that one. Nonetheless, appreciate and a big shout out to Braden for hopping on.
Definitely.
As of now, the Big 12 insider, what remains of the Big 12. But maybe
potential future Pac-12 insider.
Yeah, possibly our future Pac-12 insider, our future Pac-18 insider, Braden.
Yes.
Well, still be around the program, so appreciate that. And we will be out there golfing on Monday at the Cathedral Catholic Charity Classic, whatever it's called. So,
nice.
Well, we'll see what happens there. But Tyler, anything else you got before we get out of here?
No, man, just apologies for having to drop in and out while Braden was here to deal with these vicious, vile hounds that I'm watching for the next week. But man, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ron, thank you for jumping on. Always a pleasure. Sorry that we missed on Wednesday, but things happen. But we'll be back here on Monday talking probably a shit ton of Olympics, because I know that's pretty much all I'm doing this weekend is watching the Olympics. So
hell yes.
So watch that. It's going to fuck up my sleep because everything starts at 5 p.m. and ends at like 6 a.m. So, whatever. I'll make it work.
Time zones? Who came up with this?
Right? Some
bullshit. About
bullshit.
that.
Of course, I say this also assuming the Olympics don't just get fully shut down before the weekend is over.
Please, don't even say it.
But no, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back here on Monday, recapping the weekend. We love you guys. You know the drill. Keep the fire.